Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 6 o'clock, I want to call to order the special City Council workshop for Tuesday, July 18th, 2017. Moving on to number 2, discussion of the options on the Harrison Avenue Bridge to repair, remove, and replace the roadway or remove and replace the bridge with an alternate public improvement. Any staff comments, please?
Yes, I'm going to do an overview, and then we have Bill Myers, the city engineer, that is probably going to address many of the questions. And there is potentially 3 individual projects wrapped into item 2 and 3. So I'm going to give an overview, and then we can come back and talk about them singular as well. The first drawing that is put up is the first drawing in the packet that I handed out in case you can't see it. But the first item that we would talk about is the bridge. But before I start, I want to make sure everybody understands that this is a draft concept that we're talking about. There's still a lot of details to work out on some of the project portions of it. We would have to work with the school district, historic preservation committee, planning commission, and get community input. So I don't want anybody to think this is the final plan we're proposing. So it is subject to review and comment. But the 3 projects that I'm going to review is 1, the Harrison Street Bridge, number 2, a drainage issue that we have in the same general area, and number 3, a green commons or event area that we could develop as part of this project. And we're not submitting this for a final decision tonight, it's just to get input. The first item, if you look at your drawings, which you probably can't see it on the TV, but in hatch marks is the bridge itself. And we had an inspection done on the bridge towards the end of June, and they rated it to be no more than 3 tons. So that takes it down from a 12-ton limit to a 3-ton limit. There are some SUVs that can even get to the 3-ton limit. So it has gotten to the condition we've got to do something. The 2 options that we'll be looking at strictly relative to the bridge tonight is either repair it or take it out and put it to street because it no longer serves a bridge function. The second item, along Wentz, starting at Oklahoma, and then a smaller pipe goes 1 block north. But starting in Oklahoma, we've got about a 3x5 drainage pipe that's about 25 feet under the ground. And I believe he's moved the map ahead on me. There you go. That drainage pipe goes from Oklahoma down Wentz, across Harrison, underneath the football stadium, underneath our fire department, and then down by DeLisi's where it goes out into the Snake Creek. That pipe was put in the 1930s or earlier. Of course, since then, there's been a lot more rooftops, parking lots, more paving. So this serves a drainage area roughly from the Temple down Oklahoma and the Temple down Harrison. So it serves a pretty large area as a drainage basin. That pipe that was installed, the 3x5 roughly teardrop drainage pipe, can no longer handle the amount of storm water when you get a significant rain event. So the Powell property, which is at the intersection of Wentz and Harrison on the northeast, gets water in it. And there's been studies done, at least 2 studies over the last number of years, talking about how to fix that. We have visited with Mr. Powell. No deals have been arranged, but he seemed receptive to maybe selling that property to the city along with the parking lot where the used car lot is across the street that would be on the northwest side of the intersection of Wentz and Harrison. An option that we would have at that point would be to remove that building and put a underground detention pond facility that would collect the stormwater that the 3-foot by 5-foot drainage pipe could not handle after a major rain event. And then as that pipe had a chance to catch up with itself, then you could release, water would release. And that way we wouldn't have any flooding of areas in this general area. So that gives you some background on the drainage issue. In the study that was done roughly 10 years ago or longer, to fully address this, there was an estimate of $1.6 million. We've not done a new estimate. This approach is different. We've not had time to do a cost estimate, but it's not a cheap project. It may again reach the point when you look at priorities that this is not a project that the city council is ready to fund, but at least we need to talk about it. If we could go to the next slide. Okay, and this is the 3rd page of your handout. This would be the 3rd potential project. And what it would do is if we remove the bridge, instead of replacing or repairing it, we could put a stage or amphitheater, what terminology you would like to use, at the location of the bridge on Harrison. We could do a turnabout on Harrison at 2 locations, and the eye doctor's office on Harrison, if you close this area between the 2 G's on the roundabouts that have the G's in them on Harrison, then their patients could still use the parking in front of their building and have a turnaround to come back out. The same thing on the other end of the block. Those businesses could still use their parking and use the turnabout, and then you could close in between the turnarounds if you had a smaller event. If we did underground detention where Powell's the property is the building, then we could put a park on top of it. And so, and then purchasing the parking lot where the used car lot is, then you would have with our parking lot that we own and that parking lot and Mr. Powell's property, you would have a substantial area where you could host events like Red Brick Nights. Potentially this stage could be used as a review stand for 89ers Day Parade. So it could serve many purposes. The next page that that would look at is the last page in your exhibit. One potential, one thing we will have to address if we remove the bridge and fill it in, we will have to put a retaining wall adjacent to the brick wall that's inside the stadium. Because if you don't put a retaining wall there and put all that additional dirt in, the weight of that dirt's going to try to push that wall out. So to secure that wall, there would have to be a retaining wall put there, and that would be part of the project. Another option with the stage, if we were to do that, is you could put a stairwell from the stage down to the area where the locker rooms used to be, and you could go from that stage and that stairwell down to the stadium level and make a grand entry if you wanted to for school events or events at the stadium. There's one more slide that I would like to show you. This is an architect that's here tonight, did this drawing for us, and this would be an option that if you close that half block of Wentz and then did a turnaround for the north half and take the property where the building where Powell is, do the turnarounds on Wentz, make Wentz a greenscape, then look at the tremendous area of green area you would have, kind of like Guthrie Green in Tulsa, where you could have special events. It would be a controlled environment. The little white buildings or tops you see represent pop-up businesses that you could have at special events. Some other advantages to this area, you would not have to straddle division all the time with the events, so it would reduce the amount of police manpower we had to have at special events because we wouldn't be straddling division with these events. They would be all on one side on the east side of division. These are just some concepts. Again, it's covering three projects rolled into one. We may decide just to do one, we may do two, or may do all three. If we go to the next slide, if we were to repair the bridge, this is a cost estimate from Myers Engineering. It would cost us approximately $543,000 to repair the bridge. It would have a 15-year life. So all you're doing is spending $550,000 roughly, and you're saying you go ahead, come back in 15 years and repair a bridge that no longer serves any bridge function. We could go to the next spreadsheet. If we take the bridge out, do the retaining wall to protect the stone wall inside the stadium, a permanent fix, you're looking at $695,000. So not a lot more would be a permanent fix instead of a 15-year fix that you would have to come back and deal with again later. With that, I've got another drawing, but it has to do with the next project. So if we could stop here with the drawings and then answer questions and have discussion, and then item 4 we'll go to the other two drawings.
Let everybody get caught back up. Any initial thoughts?
I think it's a great idea.
It's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
Awesome idea.
Do we have any concerns about retaining the historical value of the rock the way it's been for so long? I mean, we're making huge changes if we
Yeah.
do that.
The rock inside the stadium?
And outside.
Yeah,
And the
and
wall.
outside,
Okay.
the wall,
The
the whole,
WPA
the whole
What,
ambiance of
what
that.
our plans are is to have our architect design the stage and the area around the stage so it looks like a WP era project.
It would
So,
have to, yeah.
so that it would look just like it was an original part of the project. The abutments of the bridge underneath are setting on sandstone blocks that are like 18 inches tall and a couple feet long or 3 feet long. We would bring those to the surface, we'd get other sandstone, and our goal would be to design it so that the stage would look like it was part of the original construction and have that appearance that it's a WPA project.
Yeah, my only other question is, at this time, if we do something like this, and we've been kicking around the bump outs and all these different things with the city and a portable stage and on and on and on, is this the answer to all of that? Scud the bump outs, take,
What-
so many people are against it anyway.
What we'd like to do, the stage area we would do like it was a WPA project.
Right,
The park area and the circles, we would try to do more with the red bricks and make it look like downtown and blend those two together. We'd like to take Harrison, this project, and finish it out to Division and make it have the appearance of downtown with the red brick and blend it in with the WPA looking stage. Then if we come back later and do the streetscape project from Harrison past Oklahoma, those two intersections, we'd like to revisit it and see if there's an opportunity to do that project where it has more of an appearance of the history era of downtown. And I think that would tie it all in together and give us more of the historic approach.
I'm really concerned about the historic approach and how involved will the historical preservation be? I think that is integral.
When we revisit the project, and also, as I said in the beginning, if we look at going forward with these projects, we've got several partners that will have to be intricately involved in this. We'll have to have the school district involved, one, because we'll be putting the retaining wall in to protect the stone wall and the bridge. We'll want to work with them from a timing standpoint with the football season coming up. We'll have to work with the historic preservation because we'll want their input relative to the appearance and the aesthetics as far as fitting into the historic era of our community. We'll work with the planning commission as far as traffic patterns and those kind of things. So there's multiple partners that will have to be involved. All we're doing tonight is presenting a concept approach, not the final plan. So there are a lot of partners we'll have to work with but it would serve no purpose to start down that path if it was not something the city council was even receptive to start with.
I just want our business people to be on board and like the idea. I don't want that to be a faction against what we have to do. I want everybody to feel like they have ownership in it. Historical is very important for our traffic as far as people coming to visit.
I think another advantage, because we have some storefronts that have some issues with us closing the street in front of their storefronts. If we could have more of these events in this green area where we're not closing the road in front of their storefronts, I think it would be an advantage to some of our downtown businesses as well.
Well, I've heard from some. I'd like to hear from some more. But I think that as long as that we keep them open and clear of the things that we're wanting to do, I think it might possibly be something that we should look at more. Okay, thank you.
I agree. I think this is a fix to several problems that we're facing right now, especially drainage. The bridge is the main thing that we have to take care of immediately. It's just something that's, looking at the pictures, it's like I'm surprised the thing is even still standing.
Yeah.
Obviously, the drainage, obviously, the pals know very well about the drainage. You know, getting that fixed, getting the bridge fixed, doing something downtown that helps it, it's really an eye-opener. I think it's a good thing that we carry on and just keep looking at it and take these concepts and get everybody on board with it.
Well, it kind of develops a city square,
Yeah.
which is old school. But
Yeah.
the one thing that I kind of wondered about is the placement of the stage. Does it have to be where it's at? Can it not center on Wentz?
There are multiple options. One of the things that, the reason we originally looked at putting it where the old bridge was is the potential of having it two-faced, where you could have a band or a group perform, and it would be open to the north, to the green area. The other that thought would be if you had it a second open face to the south, you could use it at the stadium and have a band or
Band
whatever
for the football game.
perform
Okay.
in the stadium. Now, depending on input from the school district and others, that may change. And yes, I think there is opportunity that you could site the stage at a different location. I don't think it's set in concrete that that's where it has to be. That was just original concept to bring forward.
Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
being in construction, symmetry matters a lot to me,
Yes.
and it doesn't line up with the street. That's the only thing that I was
Yes.
looking at, so,
So no, it's not locked in. It has to be right there.
okay. I love the concept. I think this is exciting.
I agree. I love the concept as well, and I'm even open to the idea of closing Wentz between Harrison and Oklahoma, and with the alternative greenscape plan.
What's the school think about this, guys?
Yeah.
Since there's a couple.
Since
board
we have
members
it.
here and the
Sure.
Superintendent, and John's here.
Superintendent, thank you. You'll speak for
Leroy and I have had some conversation about this, but the one thing, and Cheryl, I appreciate your comments earlier, the one thing that we've taken the position of is we do not want to change the inside of the stadium. We don't want to modify the wall on the inside. It is historic, it is significant, it's been recognized nationally. It is a landmark for our school district and for our community, and we have no interest in changing the appearance of the inside of the stadium. This school district and this community went through a painstaking renovation of that stadium in 2005, and we are very proud of that, and we have no interest in changing that, but we want to work with the city on the remediation of the bridge situation and try to make sure that we can get a solution there as quickly as possible. And then the potential for some of the other things we're excited about as well as you guys are.
Superintendent Simpson, is there any issue as far as the school is concerned with filling? I mean, do you use the north end of the stadium for storage at all?
No. The only thing that we've even used it for is some temporary fencing, and that's just because it was very convenient to throw it in there versus somewhere else.
Water didn't bother it?
Yeah, it's not a realistic storage area for anything anyway because of the way the water has flown.
That portion of what we're doing is not going to
No.
be an issue at all?
No.
Okay.
No, if we stored anything in there, it would be ruined with the next rain.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on. Any other comments or concerns? about this project. I think it sounds like something we need to carry on with, look at further, and
I agree.
dig a little deeper into finding out how it's going to happen. But we've got to get that road back open.
What, our retreat is coming up very shortly on August 3rd, retreat for the city council. And my thoughts are that we can continue to refine this and put this on the agenda item for our August 3rd retreat. And then we will be looking at all of our projects, not just singular, and see how this falls out in relation to our list of all of our projects so we can prioritize, because we got a long laundry list of projects. With that, if we could go to item 4.
Yep.
I've got a couple drawings. I did make handouts, but this has to do with Mineral Wells Park. And if Aaron would put up my drawing. When the two ponds at Mineral Wells Park were originally constructed, and some of Tenny or others that have been here longer can correct me if I make any misstatements, but my understanding was that these two ponds were originally flood control ponds, and they would, backwater from the creek would fill in these ponds and then eventually flow out. In the 90s, they were modified to be continuous ponds year-round. And about 3 years ago, the front pond pretty much dried up, and it became a real issue in the community from what I understand. And I mean, it's a beautiful park, and those ponds really add to that beauty. At that time, to get water into the ponds, city staff put in a pump and run shallow lines to those two ponds. And it feeds into the back pond, and then from the back pond, it feeds over into the front pond. We spent $50,000 on diesel fuel that year, pumping water to that pond. The last 2 years, we've had enough rain events that we have not had to pump a lot of water. Prior to the last 4-inch rain that we had, it had significantly dried out, and we had started pumping water to that pond again. An option that we have a raw water line that feeds the water plant. And we can put in a connection to that raw water line, and we have the capacity, and do a check valve, and we could feed those ponds with gravity flow. So you wouldn't be spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on diesel fuel, depending on how long you had to pump water to them, because it would be gravity flow. And this is a layout of the pipe that, and I wish I had a pointer, but the pipe that would go from our raw water line down by Fairgrounds Road up to the back pond, and then that would feed the front pond as well. The cost of this project, though, if you'd go to the next slide, Aaron. And for some reason, I have got my pages out of order up here, and my old eyes won't read that, but let's see. Yes. $138,000, is that correct, Bill? Yeah. So for $138,000, you could install this gravity flow line which is expensive, and that's why I think it would be good not to make a decision tonight, but we're just bringing it to your attention. And when we have our retreat on August 3rd, we'll need priorities set for all our projects because, you know, how important it is to have water in those ponds year-round, appearance. But if you look at $138,000, that's almost 2 police cars or half a splash pad. So I think we have to look at it from all of our projects to make a decision. But if you spend $40,000 or $50,000 on diesel fuel in 3 years, you would pay for this gravity flow line.
I think that pond is very important to Guthrie. I think it looks great. It's a great entryway into Guthrie. I never knew that it was supposed to be just a dry pond until it was brought to our attention and that we had been pumping a lot of water to it at that kind of cost. I think that's a great idea, personally.
I think if
Any
somebody
other-
would just step up and cough up 5 million, we could probably do all this stuff tomorrow.
Yeah,
We need a benefactor.
Yeah, we need a benefactor.
there you go.
And I will say, as we move forward on these, of course, we will be proposing use CIP tax money, but we will also be exploring any grant opportunities that we might have for some of these projects as well.
Of course,
And-
if we do some of these, we will also be incorporating some of the requests that were within that original CIP, wouldn't we?
Correct.
So it would still be there, might be presented in a little different way? Because I think it's important to also look at what the public wants.
Yes.
Yes. Very true. Any other comments or thoughts on mineral wells? Anybody else would like to say something about it? I think we've pretty well covered the entire agenda for the workshop, unless there was anything else anybody wanted to talk about.
I do have one question, and probably Brian would have asked this had he been here, but does the state contribute any stocking to mineral wells waters? I know they do at the other part, but do they there?
You mean fish?
Yeah, yes.
Tenny, you might be better to answer that question than me.
Not to my knowledge, I don't know of any.
Not unless they snuck in?
Right.
Okay.
Maybe we could make the request.
Or anything else to talk about? If not,
Would.
I'm done.
workshop